My name's Wayne. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about different gear oil options, and then we're going to fill up the 8 3/4 rear axle. One of those things that you think should be simple, cut and dry, but nowadays there's so many options with different gear oils. We're going to take a look at some of the options that we have, such as standard oil versus synthetic, and then different weights, as well as these different mystery additives they talk about, and see what they're worth. And whenever I have a question or if I'm not sure about something, I always like to reference the service manual. It's the best place to get some sound information because it's been around for decades and you can trust it. So first, let's look at capacities and how much it's supposed to take. So right here we have a rear axle section. We have 7 1/4, 8 1/4, and 8 3/4, and then the 9 3/4. So we're going to be doing my rear axle. It's an 8 3/4. It takes 4.4 pints, so that's just over 2 quarts. Now let's see what the service manual says for weight for the gear oil to use. So they have 3 different ranges. They're all between 75 and 90. So if you're going to be operating below 30 degrees Fahrenheit, they say SEE 75 gear oil. As low as -30, so up to basically 80 weight. And if you're going to be above -10, they recommend SAE 90. So those are the different weights they suggest. So in my application, my car will never be running below -10. I'm going to go with 90 weight. Now with that being said, most gear oils nowadays are split, such as like an 80-90. Therefore, it's meant to be like an 80 weight in the colder temperatures and then a 90 weight in the warmer temperatures. And that's what I'm going to be running. Now some people like to do a little bit higher, like a split 75 or 140, 80, 140. And if you're mostly drag racing or racing in a lot of hot weather, or you live in a really hot climate and that's what you want to do, people do it all the time and that will be fine and it will be safe. The biggest thing is those higher gear oil weights will cause you a little more drivetrain loss, and you can just lose a little bit of power because it takes more power to turn that thicker gear oil. But you have to make the call what's right for you. And the other option that's out there is synthetic oils. That's the big craze, right? Everybody wants to go synthetic. Again, it truly is personal preference. The biggest thing is you don't want to put synthetic in a brand new ring and pinion that hasn't been broken in. You don't want to do that. Now, once it is broken in, let's say you have 500, 1,000 miles on it, then no problems. It's your choice, your call if you want to run the synthetic. But I do know for a fact that some people have struggled with getting synthetic gear oil to seal. Sometimes they'll get a slight drip out of the pinion seal. So that's something you want to take into consideration. So this is the gear oil that I've chosen to run in my 8 3/4. This is a non-synthetic 80-90. So I'm not going to run a higher weight. I really don't think there's any need or any benefit for me to. I've always ran an 80-90 non-synthetic and it works great. But what I do like is I like the added insurance of running a better name brand such as Lucas. There's Redline. There's many different ones that I consider a better quality oil versus just some type of Walmart brand, right? I do like to use a good quality brand of gear oil, and this is what my local store had in stock, so I bought a couple quarts of this, and this is what we're going to run. Now, when you're running a show grip, you definitely want to use a friction additive or modifier, because if you don't, you can hear the noise in your rear axle that it will make if you don't. So you need this friction additive modifier. In Motorcraft, actually, I know it's Ford, but this is what you want to put in there to keep it quiet. So we're going to add a bottle of this as well. And to make sure you add this in before you put all your gear oil in, because this is 4 fluid ounces, you want to make sure we don't overfill it, and we want to make sure all of this is in there. Now let's crawl under the car and get that rear axle filled up. So here is the fill plug on the passenger side of the 8 3/4 center section. It has a square hex head, so we'll use an adjustable wrench to get that out. Now on my rear axle, when I had it narrowed to V-body specs, we've added a fill plug in the back to make it a little easier. So we'll fill it up from this point, and then. Now we're going to watch the fluid level from this port, because as soon as it starts to trickle out, you know it's filled. Wow, it's working really nice. I wasn't sure if I'd have a good angle to fill it up from back here, but that's working great. Now one pro tip is if you want to do this in the winter, gear oil will drain very, very slow. And it can be stinky, especially old gear oil. And if you are doing this in the winter, help yourself out and bring it inside your home so it can warm up before you put it in your differential. So the first quart of gear oil is in the vehicle. Now to make our lives a little easier, we're going to pour this into our empty can so we can transfer that in. Now we want to be real diligent and try to get all that additive in the rear axle. Now we're ready for our second bottle. And we're going to take a catch can underneath the car, so if and when it does overfill, we'll make sure we catch it and we won't make a mess. But once it gets close, you can put your finger in that little fill hole to actually feel the fluid level before it does overflow. We're going to slowly add the fluid while periodically checking with our finger before it hopefully overflows and makes a big mess. Now, I've done this before in the winter, and it is just such a slow process. So much nicer when it's a nice 75 degrees. You have some shade under the car. It's not too bad of an experience, unless of course you're draining old gear oil, and that just stinks. The missus will be complaining for weeks about that smell. I'll be curious what type of gear oil you prefer. Leave the weights or even the brands in the comments below, and it's always good to see what other people like, or if you've had any bad experiences with any type of gear oil, I would like to hear about it. Alright, so it did not take much more before we started to slightly feel it. So I'm going to call that good. Tighten that up. And then my fill plug has a really slick O-ring on it, so that's going to seal up nice. And now with the gear oil done, we can cross one more thing off our list. So that is going to be it for this video. Hopefully you guys liked it. And if you did, please hit the like button. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. And if you turn on the bell notification, you'll be notified each and every time I upload a new video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.